Right, hello everyone. Match day video, Celtic in action later today. My job, as I often say, you'll be tired of me saying this, on these match day videos is to get you up for tonight's game. That may be harder than usual, I'll admit, for tonight's game against Sturm Graz, but we'll give it a go anyway. Lots of information, lots of questions, I guess, to be answered, like which Celtic will turn up. Will we finally get a win in the Europa League? And which analogy will Brendan Rodgers use after the game to slag off his players if things don't go well? And why the hell are you wearing all black today, Hamish? Is it because you are getting ready for the funeral of this Celtic team? Let's start with the Brendan Rodgers press conference. Oh, and support for the show comes from the heroes at Practical CBT, offering online tools for better mental well-being. So, yesterday's press conference, it kind of kicked off with Brendan Rodgers being questioned on those comments he made at Dens Park on Sunday after the defeat. Just a reminder of exactly what he said. After the game, he said, "There's no way you'll go into a race and be given the keys to a Honda Civic and as you take off say, 'I want you to drive it like a Ferrari.' It's not going to happen." So Brendan Rodgers was asked about this yesterday a few times, but he said that his comments were in reference to the speed of the team, and clearly the Ferrari being last season and the likes of Kyogo Furuhashi and Nicholas Kuhn and Daizen Maeda when he was good. Sorry, that's maybe a little bit harsh. And more on Daizen later. And clearly this season is the Honda Civic. So Brendan Rodgers, clear on that in his own mind anyway. Fair to say it's probably been interpreted slightly differently by us as fans and the media and maybe those inside the Celtic dressing room as well. However, Brendan Rodgers did say he's not worried about the impact those comments could have had on the squad. He totally stands by them. I've not actually touched on those comments after the game on Sunday. I do think that the actual nature of what he said has been a bit overblown, but that's no real surprise in the Scottish media landscape. When you say something like that, it's obviously going to be picked up. And Brendan Rodgers will have known that when he was saying that on Sunday. So, yeah, you can have your debate about what effect that has on the Celtic dressing room. I think my own kind of frustration with listening to Brendan Rodgers at the moment is that he's doing that thing where he says he's not going to moan about the summer or the squad that he's been left. The quote yesterday that he gave was, "I can't afford to look back." And he's saying that, but then an answer or two later, there's some comment that he gives that indirectly references how he can only do so much with the squad that he has. But I think more than anything, it's his apparent kind of unwillingness for whatever reason to change something, whether that be personnel or formation. I think that's my big frustration with the manager right now, rather than anything he's actually saying. It's kind of what he's doing or not doing. Just in terms of that thing I just mentioned there, the kind of willingness to, I think, experiment was the word that was put to Brendan Rodgers yesterday in terms of personnel and formation to try and get this right for Celtic. And he answered that question by saying that he feels he has to and he will continue to experiment, including tonight. But he gave what I think is a slightly concerning caveat that we must retain stability in the side, which, again, is very easy to be cynical at the moment. I think we're all a bit cynical with good reason. To me, talking about stability just tells me that he's not really going to make wholesale changes to tonight's team or on any team going forward. And when he's talking about stability, I could be reading this wrong, but I think he's talking about that kind of spine of the team and the experienced players, guys like Kasper Schmeichel, Callum McGregor, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Rio Hatate. And I think there's an argument that any or all of those four could be taken out of the team at the moment because I think they're all significantly underperforming. I just don't think Brendan Rodgers is going to do that, and I think that's an issue. In terms of what's gone down since the game on Sunday, in-house. He says that they've obviously sat down and gone through parts of the game on Sunday, and that he's reinforced to the team, what he wants the team to be and what Celtic are when we're at our best. And all I can say is fair play to him for remembering, because it's been a long, long time, I think, since Celtic have been at our best. But he was speaking, I think, more about the kind of the basics, the world class basics of stuff like effort and running, and I think he even mentioned heading the ball, and then your quality will shine through. So he's saying that very publicly. Are we going to see an improvement in those regards for Celtic tonight? And like, one of my big frustrations about Celtic at the moment is, like, sometimes we see a wee improvement. Like, the team, I think, will come out quick tonight because they'll feel they've got a point to prove. I do believe that. But how long does that last for? Because coming out for the first 5, even 10 minutes really fast and starting well, but then kind of reverting to type as the game goes on, kind of like what happened against Braga, I think, and there's been numerous other games. That's not going to be acceptable. We need to find a 90-minute performance, or it's certainly at least a 60 or 70-minute performance to get a win tonight. But I've got my doubts. There's a really good question put to him. It was Michael Gannon, the journalist, who put the word scunnered to Brendan Rodgers. And if you're maybe not Scottish and you don't know what this word means, it's one of my favourite words. I use it a lot, mainly when I'm spending time with Stevie. That was harsh, sorry Stevie. But basically it translates to something like utterly fed up. And it's quite an easy word to know the definition for. It's how you're feeling about Celtic right now. And Michael Gannon put this word to Brendan Rodgers and kind of asked Brendan Rodgers, are you scunnered right now with Celtic? Which, to be honest, is quite a kind of brave thing to do, to put a word like that to the manager. But he kind of took it in pretty good spirits, and he gave what I thought was the kind of most notable answer of his press conference. Well, it is and it isn't. He spoke about having never been more motivated as Celtic manager than he is right now, which, as I say, is interesting, because I think a lot of people are saying that Brendan Rodgers isn't motivated right now. I'm not going to say that, because then I would be calling Brendan Rodgers a liar, and I don't particularly want to get into that kind of name-calling type thing. I think if Brendan Rodgers is saying he's as motivated as ever, clearly some people are going to debate that. But I think you have to take him at his word in that regard. But my issue is that even if Brendan Rodgers is as motivated or more motivated than he's ever been as Celtic manager, that's only a small part of the issue. The issue is that the players actually playing, the really, really, really important ones who actually put the ball in the net or don't put the ball in the net, as it has been recently, they don't appear to be the motivated ones. So it's okay if Brendan Rodgers, and we take him at his word, says he's very motivated, then that's just part of the thing. The big thing is he needs to find a way to motivate those players. And for whatever reason, a lot of the players we're seeing playing every game don't appear to be motivated right now. And we know that at least 2 of them publicly wanted out of the club and expected to be out of the club in the summer, Yang and Daizen. And there's a fair chance that some others expected to leave as well. So how do you motivate these guys? And if they're beyond the motivation, in my mind, you have to sit them on the side and say, that's it. If you're not going to be motivated to play for Celtic, I don't care what you've done in the past, you can't continue being in my starting lineup. By the way, just talking about team news, there was an injury update given from the manager, and the main kind of takeaway was that Daizen is not available for tonight's game, and there's kind of been question marks over Daizen and what the story is there. We heard initially, I think when he was away on international duty with Japan, that he had like a tight left foot, and then we heard that it was like a tight left leg, which is fair enough, but that was kind of coming from the Japanese side of things. We're now hearing from Brendan Rodgers that Daizen is suffering, and this is a direct quote, suffering stiffness in his lower back and his hamstrings. And Brendan Rodgers says that there was positive news on it, but that there's no timeline in terms of his return. And then he also said that we'll see how he is for the weekend. So again, the cynics have come out. I've seen a lot of speculation, people wondering whether we have seen Daizen Maeda in a Celtic shirt for the final time. As I say, that is a cynical view, but it does seem a bit strange what's going on with Daizen at the moment, with his various ailments and the stuff we know about Daizen wanting to leave the club and expecting to leave the club, and the fact that we're now just 2 months away from the January window. I think it's one to watch, and I'm not usually someone who subscribes to these kind of theories of, yeah, something's going on there, but it just seems a little bit strange what's happening with Daizen. I don't think he'll be back for Sunday, which is going to be a loss. If he's not, I think we need to find out what's going on, because as I say, it seems a bit strange. Just in terms of the other injury bits, Alistair Johnston should be okay, according to the manager. That's for tonight's game. You doubt that Johnston's going to start, though. Paulo Bernardo, spotted him in training at Lennoxtown yesterday. He missed the weekend's game. He had a bug, so clearly he's back and available for tonight's game. And just a reminder, I've seen a few people asking for Shinya Maeda to start tonight. Shinya Maeda is not registered for the Europa League, so we will definitely not be seeing him tonight. Same goes for Hayato Inamura, Jamai Simpson-Pusey and Callum Osmond as well. Just taking a wee look at ticket sales for tonight's game, if I jump onto the ticket website, and yeah, I had a wee look earlier, so there's quite a few seats available. Obviously, these kind of parts of the stadium with the north curve and into the is it north stand? They are pretty kind of sold out. Top tiers, I don't think a lot of the seats at the top kind of rows of the top tier have been on sale. But it doesn't look like there's actually too many seats, still available. I do wonder though if we might have a kind of unusual situation tonight where people who have actually paid for this match or the 4-match package don't bother to turn up for the game just because Celtic are such a turn-off at the moment and are just not exciting to watch. And I mean, let's face it, I mean, a lot of us obviously have to watch the game because I need to talk about it tomorrow, but a lot of you guys, I don't know if you've got other things on TV at the moment. I think Traitors is on at the moment at the same time. If that team comes out an hour before the game and it's not particularly exciting, Traitors might seem quite an exciting option, or maybe something on Netflix or Apple or whatever. But I think, people going along tonight, especially people coming from far off, it's a midweek night. The team, as I say, are not exciting at the moment. How many of these tickets that have been sold will actually have people in them? So yeah, I think that element of tonight is going to be interesting. What kind of crowd are we going to get? Just covering a few Sturm Graz stories. I've just been briefly looking at the Austrian media. 3 wee things I want to talk about. First one comes from Laola 1. Great outlet. If they ever want anyone to do a piece on Celtic or whatever, get in touch. So this is just kind of opinions, I think. But the bit I wanted to talk about was I think the kind of highest rated Sturm Graz player for tonight is a Georgian player called Otar Kitishvili, and he's a midfielder, and he's been spoken about here by someone as being a difference maker. And but interestingly, after that though, it's always interesting, I think, to look at other foreign media and see what they're saying about Celtic, and they're really talking up Celtic. I mean, they're aware here of us being weak recently and their unrest going on, but they're talking about Daizen Maeda, who's obviously not available tonight. That's fair enough, but some other guys and having real quality, and the fact we've won 13 out of 14 of our last league titles. So I think there was even a question to Brendan Rodgers from an Austrian journalist. I don't know if it's this guy or someone else, saying, are you aware in Austria that we think Celtic are big favourites for this game? Personally, I don't think we're big favourites. I think Sturm Graz, being top of the Austrian league, are probably slight favourites for tonight's game. My official prediction is that it would be a draw, something like 1-1. The other, so this is Der Grazer, which sounds far more Austrian. And they're talking about their goalkeeper tonight, a guy called Matteo Vignetti, who isn't Italian. He is Austrian, but he's actually the third choice goalkeeper of Sturm Graz, and he is going to play the game tonight because they're without I think a Russian goalkeeper, Daniel Kudyakov, but also their normal number one, Oliver Christensen, who is Danish and has been in Denmark's squad, so will be well known to Kasper Schmeichel. He got injured at the weekend for Sturm Graz, and Vignetti, who, as I say, is a young goalkeeper, 21, came in, I think, after like an hour of their game at the weekend. So in a normal world, I'd be looking at the fact that Sturm Graz have their third choice goalkeeper playing against us as being a positive, and, you know, get some shots away and test him and see what he's all about in that atmosphere. I have no faith that we're even going to test him early on. Remember, Kairat were missing their goalkeeper, weren't they, for the second leg, and we barely tested him throughout that match in Kazakhstan. But I thought that was mildly interesting. So the third goalkeeper for Sturm Graz, third choice goalkeeper, is going to start for them tonight. And just finally, the Graz player, Emir Karic, I think is a fullback, speaking about really looking forward to the atmosphere tonight. And he says when the draw was made, he hoped that Sturm Graz would get Celtic away from home, and the draw was very kind. Talking about his uncle, who has three favourite clubs, Mönchengladbach, Liverpool and Celtic, and he's delighted to be able to play Celtic tonight. I think a lot of chat about the atmosphere tonight, and Sturm Graz expecting like a Champions League atmosphere. It's really not going to be. I think the only way I can imagine Celtic Park being loud tonight is if the team start the game well and give us something. I'm talking like I'm going along. Give those of you actually going to the game something to really get behind. Like, I could see that being a thing. I think as much as we are incredibly frustrated with the club and the team at the moment, especially after Sunday, we don't want to feel like that. Like, we want to feel good about Celtic. And I think even tonight, after the months and months of really poor performances and the disillusionment we feel at the moment, if Celtic do start the game well and get an early goal, or even just like look like a team again, I think, you know, the Celtic Park support will get behind the team. So things can change quickly. Now, I know I'm probably convincing myself here, and I told myself I wouldn't do that. I do think this team doesn't have anything else to offer. That's just my opinion. But, you know, if they do start the game well tonight, as I say, get a goal, and the crowd gets behind the team, we manage to win tonight, and then suddenly we feel differently about Sunday and the cup semi and all of that stuff, things can change quickly. The team just need to show us something tonight. But I think in terms of the atmosphere, you know, it's not going to be your average European night at Celtic Park. It's or certainly as loud as some of the Champions League games were last season. So yeah, that's just a little bit of Sturm Graz tonight, who I expect to be a kind of typical Europa League type team. They were in the Champions League last season, so they'll have experience. They'll want the ball. Brendan Rodgers spoke about them being quite direct as well, so we'll need to watch out for that. But I'm less worried about them. It's more just about what we can bring to the game. And as much as I've tried to convince myself there, I think the reality is that Celtic don't have much to offer at the moment. But as I've said, I think it'll be something like a draw. Hopefully we can get the win. Sorry I couldn't give you even more encouragement going, but if you are going to the game tonight, try and make loads of noise, get behind the team, and hopefully it can be some sort of a turning point. Should say as well, just final thing, if you want a little bit more chat from me, but mainly my good friend John McGinley, check out the latest episode of the Celtic Way Weekly. That'll kill an hour for you ahead of kickoff. It should be linked above there. And yeah, please watch it, and hopefully you enjoy. We're really trying to get that podcast going. But for now, I'll head off and speak to you tomorrow. I think Scott's going to join me. So speak to you first thing Friday morning.